remember how the government promised that by scrapping the carbon tax we would reduce our energy bills. I remember. Remember how the Minister for Environment and Energy promised to deliver $550 a year saving on all of our energy bills when they were going to pass the NEG, the National Energy Guarantee. And then, of course, the government decided to pull their own legislation and we got nowhere with that. So many broken promises. I've always been happy to work constructively with government on energy policy and really any other policy that they bring to this chamber. But really, with respect to energy, they haven't given us much to work with. So back in 2017, my Centre Alliance colleagues and I negotiated a once-off energy payment, assistance payment as a stopgap measure to help some of the most vulnerable in our community manage to get through that winter on the promise that there was going to be that $550 saving. And of course, we never saw the savings. We did get that energy supplement through. And remember, at the time, the government was also looking to scrap the fortnightly energy supplement that goes to many welfare recipients. They wanted to scrap that for new ones because we didn't have a carbon tax. Of course, that didn't bring into mind the fact that energy bills were rising despite that. So as part of our then negotiations, an estimated 3 million Australians obtained relief for their energy bills with a once-off payment of $75 for singles and $125 for pensioners. At that time, as I am now, I was particularly concerned about households that are on low fixed incomes and for whom full-time work or part-time work is not a realistic option. These are people who receive the age pension, the disability support pension, the parenting payment single and various veterans payments. Now, the government admits that the temporary stopgap measure originally negotiated by Centre Alliance must become a temporary permanent style payment, and without a doubt I fully support the additional assistance for our most vulnerable Australians to keep the lights on and the heaters running. But it's a great shame that we missed the opportunity in this place to get through the NEG, to get through some sort of energy policy so that we can have a more permanent, meaningfully addressed way of reducing energy bills. Last time I spoke on the energy assistance payment in this place, I explained how I'd spoken to an elderly lady who could barely move from her bedroom because she could not afford the heating bills for more than one room in her home. And of course I question why the government, with respect to the payment that they announced just a few days ago and was referred to in the budget last night, did not include Newstart and youth allowance. Why were they ignored? I understand the government has changed position and I welcome that they have included Newstart recipients and youth allowance recipients and a very long list of other recipients of specific payments. But the issue is, why did you exclude them in the first place? Why is it that government has an ideology where they see job seekers, I believe, as dole budgers, leaners? Leaners, that's the term that we heard only a few years ago, and one that has been a mantra in this place, lifters and leaners. And I think that that language needs to stop in this place. It is clearly not the case that many people who are looking for work are dole bludgers. They are there, they are trying their absolute hardest to find employment. There are plenty of unemployed workers who, through no fault of their own, lose their jobs because their employer goes bankrupt or their factory shut down. And when you live in a regional area, there are not as many options as in metropolitan area to find employment. For example, in South Australia, the Big W distribution centre in Monarto is closing. This made the newspapers this week in South Australia. And this is just outside my electorate. However, many of the people who are employed there are inside my electorate and have been employed there for a number of years. I understand that there is hope that many workers will be redeployed, but the closure of the distribution centre is patently not their fault. Neither will be it their fault if they need to apply for Newstart, which I may say is an incredibly difficult process and one that unnecessarily takes many, many weeks to do. The level of Newstart is also not keeping families above the poverty line because it is not keeping pace with the cost of living, where the Business Council of Australia, the Australian Council of Social Services, the former Prime Minister John Howard has said that we need to look at raising the Newstart rate. When you have that collective, you know that there is a problem, and this should be above politics, and it needs to be urgently addressed. And I know that that the minister, when there was recently a motion in here from Labor with respect to the payments, that he was saying to Labor, yes, but you're not saying you're going to lift Newstart. Well, neither is the government, and they should. The government should be leading from the front on this, and it beggars belief that both parties have not moved with respect to Newstart. It will lead to more jobs because people will be able to be job ready, and you can't be job ready on the amount that Newstart is. I support mutual obligations for job seekers. No one should ever expect to receive a free ride, but job seekers do need an adequate level of financial support to enable them to effectively search for work and to pay for their basic necessities while they are looking for work. So it is for these reasons that I'm pleased that the energy assistance payment is being extended to more recipients of Centrelink. And while I support this bill, I strongly urge the government to consider all the needs of all vulnerable Australians and to look to raise the rate.